Today I'm excited to be checking out the StarLabs StarFighter laptop. A few of you started asking right away after I got done with the StarBook review on whether I could get my hands on a StarFighter. I have one now, and we're going to be getting into this amazing laptop, a removable webcam, open hardware, open firmware, a hardware wireless kill switch, a 4K 120Hz matte display, and an open warranty that lets you set up without voiding coverage. So is the StarLabs StarFighter the ultimate Linux laptop? That's what we're answering today. So some of you are going to be definitely interested in this laptop as it's Linux first and is quite amazing. It has a beautiful build that we're going to be getting into, and quite surprising the size of this thing, as typically I don't necessarily like 16-inch laptops, and that's because of a specific reason we're going to be getting into, but this one actually blew me away. As I've been using this thing for a little over a month now, developing on it, overall it's been a pretty great experience, and I'm going to get into exactly why it was a great experience. All right, so let's first start out by checking it out. If I load up, you can see from the suspend it comes right up, which is amazing because I've had issues in the past with all sorts of laptops that don't want to necessarily come up after a suspend, and this worked right out of the box. It's something that I definitely favor. So all I typically have to do is just press the enter key twice, and then it comes right up from a suspend state. It's been working great, and a lot of times whenever I've been using other laptops, my biggest issue is really just not being able to get out of suspend mode. Again, it worked right out of the box, which is fantastic for me. I do enjoy the fact that the hardware works seamlessly because this is a Linux first laptop. And not only that, they take the repairability seriously. Open this thing up here in a bit and check it out underneath. Let's start with some of the physical stuff. First off, it has a 16-inch screen, and that's something that I'm not typically used to or even like, because 15 inches is usually just enough for me. And the reason being is the weight ends up getting up there if you start getting past the 15-inch, at least for me. And I do appreciate the extra 1 inch of screen real estate. But when it comes to the fact that you put on a bunch of weight and things get bulky, well, that's not the case with this particular laptop, which makes it even better. Just to put it in perspective, my MacBook Air M2 comes in only a few grams less than this laptop, which is fascinating. Also, the fact that this build here is absolutely impeccable. This black anodized aluminum build is pretty awesome. As some of you saw in the last review, I had issues with fingerprints on the laptop. Well, not the case with this one. It actually keeps fingerprints down pretty well. There's not a ton of fingerprints that I've left even after using it over the month, which is a big win in my opinion. This one does not have that issue. I don't know what the difference is in materials, but it's working very well. So let's take a minute and check out Flex. So when it comes to Flex, there's really not much. I mean, yes, it's a bigger screen so you can flex it a little bit more, but nothing that would worry me. It looks good. But then the flex in the body is extremely minimal. I don't think you can really see me. I'm pressing down pretty hard, but there's minimal flex. Now there is a little bit here at the end of the keyboard between the mouse and the keyboard. Again, not much to worry about. You can definitely tell it's a high quality build and it looks super awesome. It's really hard to do it justice when it comes to the color, as it just doesn't show up on camera as well as it should. And if I had to compare it to my MacBook here, the build quality I believe is better on the StarLabs StarFighter, which is absolutely insane. Now, it is a bit different when it comes to materials. This one feels like more of a harder aluminum build. It does not flex quite as much as the StarFighter, but I think that's intentional with the type of materials that they're using across this thing. I also have an XPS that I use for work, and this really blows the XPS out of the water. The funny part is I keep going back to actually using this sucker on a daily, especially when it comes to programming. Anyways, let's keep going into some of the build here because it is fantastic. It's got a really satisfying shut, but now I want to take a moment and talk about the screen because it is very high quality. It's actually a little silly how nice this screen is, because it might be overkill for a lot of people, but it's also nice to have, which is a key theme to this thing. So this not only is a 16-inch display, it's got the 16:10 display ratio with up to 4K resolution. That's 3840 by 2400. It's got also up to 120 hertz refresh rate, 625 nits of brightness. Currently, I do have it up all the way, as you can tell. I'll show you here. And the colors really pop on this thing. It's one of the best reasons to actually use this thing, because with that high of brightness and then the display being so color accurate, it just pops. I mean, it's hands down better than my MacBook, which is a lot to say because they use those Retina displays that are really nice. So a strong win for this Linux laptop. Again, just so many great things with it. Let's keep going and talking about the display just a little more, as it also has a 180-degree hinge. That's right, you can actually fold this sucker all the way back, and then you have this awesome viewing angle. So sometimes you want to see your monitor and you want to get the other one out of the way completely. You can do that with this laptop. I actually have never had a laptop like this besides the StarBook, so definitely had to get used to that, because I've had issues in the past where I've tried to push back my screen a little bit. Like on the MacBook, I think it goes to like 110 degrees or so, and that's just not quite enough to clear some screens, especially when you got things pretty low with a monitor and you want the laptop under the monitor. Anyways, it comes up fairly easily. Does it come up with just one hand? Well, no, at a certain point it does eventually leave the table. And this all works right off the bat in Linux. Again, it's suspended and came right back up, which is fantastic. It's just about as fast as my MacBook 2. The other massive thing that I just absolutely can't get over is really the full-on haptic touchpad. This thing is wild. It's a decent size. It's very proportional. They put it in the middle, and it's going to be a little hard to pick up the clicks on this thing, but I'll definitely try. So give me a second here, because it's really satisfying. Okay, let's take a listen. And they didn't cheap out. When you click down with two fingers, it actually brings a menu up. When you just click with one, it's like you're right-clicking. I love the gesture control on this thing. It makes me feel like I'm really using a Mac, which is actually a great thing, because it's so hard to find a laptop that actually matches a MacBook when it comes to the trackpad or touchpad. It's just flawless and seamless with this thing. That was the number one shocker for sure. Anyways, it's great. I will say when I'm typing, sometimes the palm rejection doesn't work as well as I would get on a MacBook, that's for sure. But overall, it's been a pretty great experience. That's really the operating system with that flaw. I'm not going to penalize this thing for that, but it is something that you should be aware of whenever using it. You might need to tweak things in the operating system to actually get a good feel on that. All right, so now let's get into some of the ports in the keyboard on this thing. First, we have a USB-C port. This is a Thunderbolt 4 or USB for charging and expansion. Then we have an HDMI port followed by a USB-A. This is a full-size 3.0 USB-A port. And then another Thunderbolt 4 or USB 4 for charging and expansion again. But what's also awesome is this comes with Power Delivery 3.0, which is a fast charging standard that allows devices to negotiate power requirements, enabling more efficient charging with adjustable voltages. Definitely pretty slick, as we have two of those ports on certain models. Then on the other side, we have an aux port, another USB-A 3.0 port, a secondary one, and then this hidden slot right here. Let's actually remove what's in it. And this is where your webcam lives. You take this sucker apart and you get a full-fledged webcam, which you can then actually attach to the top of the computer. What you'll notice on top is a few pins where you can actually connect this sucker to. You just put it on like that. It goes very easily. And then you can use the webcam. It's a pretty neat design. I really enjoy it. Now the webcam is nothing special. It's a 1080p cam and it works fine for video calls and messaging. Now I've had some issues with the microphone. Not exactly sure what's going on with all that, but I feel like it's something firmware related or driver related, not a big deal. Now let's get into things and talk a little bit about the keyboard. As those of you who do not like chick click keys or the very small hard press travel keys, well, you're in luck. These have a little bit more actuation distance, more like a ThinkPad, and I personally love it, as it feels like when you're typing, it's more intentional. Let's take a moment and listen as I type on monkey type. So there you go. It's very satisfying, especially if you like the longer depth of travel or actuation. And it feels really great, so I'm going to try and get the depth of travel here. You can see they push in quite a bit. If you like the MacBook style of keyboard, you probably won't like this one necessarily, but I'd say give it a shot either way. They also have different versions of this keyboard available. Two more things I wanted to show off is the Wi-Fi kill switch that you can actually use to kill off Wi-Fi if you want. Just move the switch and instantly kill off Wi-Fi. It's pretty cool. Things went straight into airplane mode whenever I did that, and it works well right out of the box. You also have a micro SD slot that you can put in an SD card, a couple more ports that I almost forgot about. Okay, so the next thing I want to really get into is how repairable this thing is. It's becoming more and more important every day that hardware vendors and laptop vendors allow us to repair these things. What happens after a few years whenever you're ready to either upgrade or you're ready to repair something, move out, replace the battery, or just replace something else? Well, let's check it out. First, I'll actually shut things down real quick. All right, and with the computer shutting down, of course, I want to make sure that everything's off. I'm going to shut the lid, and then I'm going to go in and try to access this. So for those of you interested, there's about 10 screws on the back of this thing that we got to get in through in order to open this thing up. So that's what I'm going to be doing. Let's check it out. All right, so I was able to get all the screws out, and then we're going to move them out of the way here. So the one thing is I removed the webcam so I can try and get inside. I'm going to start from the back here and just use a little tool here to try to help me, because there's clips in here. You can hear them a little bit coming out. So I got this side a little bit out. Let me see if I can get this side as well. There we go. Starting to, at least. It's a little unsettling hearing it unclip, but make sure that there's really no rattle in the chassis. That's nice. And it's not glued like some laptops, which would be extremely annoying. And we got almost all of it out now. There we go. Now it's coming out pretty easily. You'll want to make sure that you use something, plastic, just to be able to get in here. You wouldn't want to break one of these clips. That would really suck. There we go. That came off, and we can set that aside now and take a deeper look at exactly what is here. So just taking a look here, there is quite a bit to take a look at, but we got the heatsink and the internals right here, the two fans, as you can tell, and it looks like the battery is very easy to replace. It's one basically just brick here that is connected, as you can tell right here, and maybe, I think that's really it. It's just connected right here. Take that out, and then you can flip this battery out. It looks like there's only a little tiny screw right here holding it in, and maybe a separate screw, yep, right here and right here. So 4 screws in order to get your battery out and an unclipping. That's really awesome. We can see the M2 slot for the SSD right here in the middle, which is fantastic. It looks like just 1 screw to get that sucker out. It looks like we have a secondary slot for an M2 storage. Now, one thing I was looking at and wondering is, what does this slot look like for the webcam? And here it is. You can see the webcam now in. I believe that's the way you got to put it in. Yeah, that feels right. You can feel it's a little magnetized on the back here. Not a big deal, but what would be very interesting is if we could replace this right here with some sort of expansion module. If they could run some cabling up to here, instead of making this just a wasted slot for just holding the webcam, maybe we can put an external Ethernet slot there or something. That'd be fantastic. I don't know how capable we are here. We can see this looks like the Wi-Fi adapter, and it looks like we have our left and right speaker here. Overall, everything seems pretty easy to get to. How repairable is it? Well, I haven't had to repair mine, so I can't exactly tell you, But at least everything is accessible. The hinges are accessible if you need to remove the screen. It doesn't look like it would be a nightmare. It looks like we got a couple header cables here that allow us to get our, USB-A, and then same thing over here. It looks like you could even replace the ports if you really wanted to. Very cool. Overall, good design. I like the fact that you're able to open this up with an open warranty, meaning even if you open it up, you can still get support and help with repair and all that fun stuff. It doesn't just void your warranty, which a lot of manufacturers do. It's quite annoying. Anyways, another win for StarLabs, making this thing repairable. I'm not sure if they have it currently on the website, but I know for the StarBook they do. They do a complete teardown. I mean, they tear down, get the screen out of this thing, battery, all the little extras and stuff too. It's really in depth for the StarBook. I don't think they quite yet have that for the StarFighter. I'm pretty sure it is coming. So anyways, love to see a laptop that is repair friendly in this day and age, as it gets really hard to repair things that we own. They want us to trash it. Well, this is a big investment and it should not be trashed. Fantastic to see this from StarLabs. The memory and the CPU is actually soldered on. I would assume, it looks like right here, you can kind of see the CPU, and it makes sense because the fans and the heatsink all are directly up on here, but the memory is probably up top. This is actually soldered in with the 4x315 ball configuration. It's LPDDR5X memory with 7,500 megatransfers per second. This is a 64 gig laptop. I think that's a majority of what we wanted to check out. It looks fairly accessible and repairable. Let's see how easy it is to put back together now after I've taken the clips out. You can see this material is very thin, and it's actually very nice the way that they've made it. It makes it so lightweight, it's crazy. All right, let's just see if we can just simply push it down and whether it'll come back in. I'm gonna start with this side first. It's clicking. Good, 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 good. Awesome. Very satisfying, actually. And the flex back here is not bad at all. That's one thing I did forget to check. What does the flex look like back here? Right, it's what's expected of something this thin and light. It's going to have a bit of flex. I'm not sure if you can really see that, but looks good. Very good venting, both at the screen and on the back. All right. I'm not going to bore you with the screws. Let me finish that out. Some of you might be curious about what exactly the boot process looks like. So it can almost come all the way up without actually having to get some extra support here. But anyways, let's start this thing on and just see exactly what this looks like here. All right, so here's the boot screen. I think it's F2 or F12 to get me into BIOS, one of those. All right, clearly hit the wrong thing, so I'm just gonna restart things. All right, this time I got into the boot menu, and here's what things look like. It's very minimal. You basically just have the boot menu, boot manager, and settings. Quite a bit of settings here that you can go through. I'm not gonna go through these right now, but super simple to use. Nothing challenging here. Makes a lot of sense. Anyways, to get out of here, we just go to continue. Now let's talk about something else that's really important that comes with this laptop. That's Coreboot and EDK2, which is awesome because you can actually update firmware for a lot of your hardware directly from the operating system. This is awesome, as I can literally update BIOS directly from my computer. This is a direct update from StarLabs, which they come in quite often to make our experience even better on these laptops and desktops, as they don't just leave you here without support. That's another great thing. StarLabs is great for support. Here I can even update my storage NVMe disk. And then Coreboot matters because it replaces a lot of the usual black box firmware that they just throw into your computer, which you have really no idea or way of checking or double checking. And it is another reason why StarLabs and the StarFighter are very unique, as it comes with Coreboot, it's Linux friendly, and you have awesome firmware updates through LVFS support. Another massive win here, and I do enjoy using all of this for sure. Another thing I want to eventually test is the LibreBoot compatibility. Eventually I want to test out and see if this is Libre distro compatible as well with some tests. From my understanding, it is all the way up to the binary firmware blob for Wi-Fi specifically, But short of that, everything else is compatible. For those of you interested, let me know in the comment section below. So another thing here is on the screen, the viewing angles are great. You can get 178 degrees of viewing. These are custom designed and actually built in-house. So on this laptop with the Linux native support, Coreboot firmware that's focused around privacy and the open source philosophy, an alternative to the mainstream brands including Dell, Lenovo, or even competing against the MacBook and MacBook Pro, this thing is an awesome Linux workstation. I do love the fact that they have an awesome, slick design here. As in the past with some Linux laptops that I've used, they seem cheap and plastic. There are 3 models available here, a 14-core Ultra 5 125H, a 16-core Intel Ultra 9 285H, and an AMD Ryzen 7 8845HS series. So for those of you who are interested, which I know a lot of you talked about it last time, that you wish you at least had the choice of going AMD. Well, you can with the StarLabs StarFighter, which is another awesome takeaway from all of this. Now, I'll be honest, it's not all perfect. I do run into some quirks. One being that whenever I boot up, and sometimes on startup, you can hear stuff coming out of the speakers, basically popping noises. It probably has to do something with the operating system, but I haven't been able to get rid of it. It's typically a single popping noise. I can't really reproduce it, but it just happens from occasion to occasion. Also, the speakers, they're really not great, at least for my ears. Let me get a test of those real quick. But I will say that compatibility with headphones, either using the aux jack or just using Bluetooth, completely fine, and that's what I do for the most part anyway, so it's not a showstopper for me at least.
Say it louder, say it louder. Feel the moment, feel the power. Bring the animal back to life. Bring the energy one more time. If you feel like letting go, you can take control. You
Wallpaper, the bar, and different types of things like monitors, behavior, and widgets, it can almost get overwhelming. There's just so much to change. But this is the... So what about battery life? Well, overall it's pretty good. I do like the fact that it tries to dim the screen and all of the suspending features work just fine right off the bat. I've had issues with laptops before, even trying to set stuff up myself with Linux, especially when it comes to the suspend. So I'm glad to say that that all works well. And how does the 4K 120 Hertz screen affect things? Well, for me, at least in my workloads, which I'm mainly using this to program and compile things, I can definitely get a good 6 hours, 7, 8 even. Now I haven't tried, I think the claim is around 18 hours. Now that might be if you get 50% brightness, which I like to run at 100, and maybe 60 Hertz with some light browsing or writing. I can't confirm that, but I don't see why it wouldn't be able to work. I think one of the greatest things about this deal is that it, in fact, comes in at 1.6 kilograms, which is 3.52 pounds. That's absolutely fantastic, as the MacBook Air, at least the one I have, M2 series, comes in only a couple grams lighter. I think it's 3.3, even though it's a 15-inch laptop. Pretty insane for a 16-inch laptop. When it comes to the fans, I really don't ever hear them idly. Maybe when I'm compiling things and it's taken a while that I can have them spin up a little bit, and that's really it. Now the bottom chassis does get warm after using it, in performance mode, as you would expect. because it does have fans built in. It's not like the MacBook Air, which I've just never gotten that thing hot, at least not while it's sitting in my lap. Overall here, I feel like the StarFighter is not really trying to be the cheapest 16-inch laptop by any stretch of the imagination, but it is trying to give you an absolute premium build when it comes to Linux. As again, it is Linux first. It completely separates itself from things like Framework or MacBooks or the XPS. I keep reaching for this thing. I own a majority of those laptops. I have a MacBook, I have a Dell XPS, and I love to program and actually do all my work mainly on this thing. Now there are programs which, unfortunately for my work setting, I have to use Windows occasionally, but whenever I'm doing a majority of my programming, well, it just happens here on the StarBook. It's absolutely fantastic for a workstation. I don't know what else you could want. I didn't think I would like the 16-inch screen as much as I do. That was quite surprising, as this thing has really grown on me. Again, I've always liked 15-inch screens. Plenty of ports. Maybe the only one missing for me is an Ethernet port. That'd be fantastic. I'm not going to complain about that, since I can easily add that in through a hub or actually just using my adapter cable. You do get a couple other things with the laptop that I almost forgot about. You also get the small brick charger. It's quite fascinating how small this is. I believe it's a 65-watt charger, but very small form factor. You get a USB-A and a USB-C type on the other side, and then braided cable with it as well, which is USB 4.0. Very nice cable. It goes well with the laptop as it matches color. Is there anything else that you wanted me to explore on this laptop? I could make a second review in the future. It might be worth it. If I missed anything, let me know in the comment section below. What other things are you looking for in your Linux laptop? I'd love to hear from you. Also, they do have a StarBook, which is a 14-inch. I believe they have the New Horizon as well, which is, I think, a 13-point-something-inch screen as well. So you can check those out if you need other things from your laptop or need a smaller screen, more portable type stuff. This is just the perfect workstation for me. I'm quite happy with it. Anyways, I'll catch you in another video. Thanks for watching.